When I opened the bedroom closet at 2 a.m., I heard my wife whisper, "He'll never know it was you." Then I checked the trash and found something that quietly changed everything. Hey there, we're working hard to hit our first 1,000 subscribers. If you love true, emotional stories, hit that subscribe button. It helps more than you know. Now let's get into the story. My name's Dean. I'm 34 years old, and I thought I had a peaceful, low-drama life. I married Kayla 6 years ago. She's 32, a pediatric nurse with a laugh you can hear across a room and a talent for making people feel safe. At least, that's how it used to feel. We had one of those relationships people envy on social media. Couples vacations, quiet Sundays, matching mugs. We even made playlists for long drives. If you had asked me a month ago if I thought she'd ever betray me, I would have laughed. Until one night, at exactly 2:06 a.m., everything changed. I'd woken up for a glass of water. Nothing unusual. I remember the time because I glanced at my phone on the way out of the room. The hallway was dark. I didn't turn on any lights. I knew the way to the kitchen by heart. But as I passed the bedroom again, something made me pause. A soft light glowed from inside the walk-in closet. It wasn't the ceiling light. It was dimmer, warmer, like the flashlight setting on a phone. I stopped at the door. I didn't hear shuffling or footsteps, just the sound of my wife whispering. At first, I thought she was talking in her sleep. But then came the sentence that froze me in place. "He'll never know it was you." Her voice was soft, careful, measured. I didn't know who she was talking to. I didn't know what she was referring to. But my stomach dropped like it knew before my brain did. I didn't open the door. I backed away slowly, pretending I'd forgotten something in the kitchen. I poured water, stood there like an idiot, then tiptoed back into bed. When she returned a few minutes later, she kissed my shoulder and slid under the blanket like nothing happened. That moment cracked something inside me. And once it cracked, I started noticing everything. The next morning, while Kayla was still in the shower, I went back to the closet. Nothing looked suspicious. Her scrubs were hanging neatly, shoes lined up like always. Her bag sat in the usual spot. But then I checked the bathroom trash. It was buried beneath a wad of tissues and a crumpled protein bar wrapper. A pregnancy test. Faint pink lines. Just barely visible. I held it in my hand for a long minute. We weren't trying. In fact, we'd both agreed to wait a couple more years before even talking about kids. We weren't even actively doing anything that risky. And yet, here it was. I didn't throw it back in. I placed it in a Ziploc bag and slid it into the drawer of my desk. That's when I started to spiral. What had she meant? Who was she talking to? Was it just a friend being supportive? Was the test even hers? I spent the entire day working like a zombie, barely able to focus on the code in front of me. That night, I watched her carefully. She made dinner like normal. Pasta with the sauce she knew I liked. She wore the fuzzy socks I bought her last Christmas. She even leaned against my shoulder while we watched a rerun of The Office. But her phone? Her phone was glued to her hand every few minutes. She wasn't scrolling. She was typing, smiling at it, deleting things fast. Once, when I glanced over, she tilted it away and laughed. I wanted to confront her right then, but I didn't. Instead, I started documenting everything. That week, I ordered a small voice recorder online. One of those spy gadgets that looks like a thumb drive but picks up whispers from across the room. I tucked it into the back corner of our closet, where it could catch her voice if she ever made another late-night call. It didn't take long. 2 nights later, I stayed up past midnight, pretending to be asleep, and sure enough, she got up around 1:30 a.m. with her phone. I didn't follow. I let her whisper into the darkness. The next morning, after she left for work, I plugged in the recorder. At first, it was static. Clothes rustling. Light footsteps. Then, her voice. No. He has no clue. You're in the clear. Pause. I know. I was nervous too, but I've got it under control. Laughter. No, I didn't tell him. Why would I? He still thinks it's his. It felt like someone poured acid down my throat. The test was real. And apparently, it wasn't mine. I sat at my desk for hours after that, trying to decide if I was going to rage or break down. Instead, I copied the audio to my cloud drive, locked my laptop, and started digging deeper. The first thing I did was look at her phone when she left it in the kitchen to shower. Nothing. No suspicious names. No incriminating messages. Then I remembered something she didn't. Her iPad was synced to her iCloud account. I opened it while she was at work. And that's when the floodgates broke. Text messages, photos, voice memos, all auto-backed up. The messages were deleted from her phone, but the cloud kept the receipts. A name came up again and again, Ben S. The messages weren't just flirty. They were explicit. Late-night confessions, screenshots, plans, dates, hotels, and then the worst one of all. So what if it's yours? Ben S. At first, the name didn't register. Just a profile picture of some shirtless guy at the gym and a string of disgusting messages. But then it hit me. Ben Samuels. My cousin. Same Ben I used to build Lego castles with at our grandparents' house. The guy who got me into fantasy football. The one who'd slept on my couch for a week when his apartment flooded 2 years ago. That Ben. I dropped the iPad. I didn't even feel my legs as I backed away from the table. Just this weird sensation, like my brain was glitching and refusing to accept what it had just seen. She was sleeping with my cousin. And not just sleeping with him. She was actively talking about pregnancy. About how to lie to me. About keeping it under wraps. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't scream. I just sat there on the kitchen floor, completely numb. Once the initial wave of shock passed, something else took its place, clarity. I stopped asking why and started preparing how. I needed proof. Not just for me. For everything. Divorce, property, exposure. So I downloaded the entire iCloud backup. I exported the messages, screenshots, recordings, timestamped files. Then I backed those up in a private Google Drive under a fake email. If this was war, I wasn't going to lose because I got emotional. That night, I said nothing. I cooked dinner. I asked about her day. She smiled and talked about a new baby at the NICU that finally opened his eyes. She had no idea the walls were closing in. The next day, I told my sister, Ava. We met for coffee. I didn't sugarcoat it. I showed her the screenshots, the audio clip, the pregnancy test in a bag. I watched her jaw slowly drop. She's always had a blunt mouth, but even she didn't know what to say at first. Finally, she leaned forward and said, Dean, we need to talk to Mom and Dad. I wasn't sure. I didn't want to involve anyone yet, but Ava didn't give me the option. That night, we all sat around my parents' dining table while I laid it all out. My mom looked like someone had smacked her with a brick. My dad just sat in silence, hands clenched. When I mentioned it was Ben, my dad's jaw twitched. That was his nephew, his sister's son. And my mom had practically helped raise Ben after his dad left. You need to know whose baby it is, my dad said. If there even is one, my mom added. They told me not to confront her yet. Just keep gathering. Plan smart. They didn't want a scandal. They wanted me to win. A week later, everything changed again. Kayla came home early from work, eyes red. No makeup. Her hands were shaking. She said she wasn't feeling well, that she'd had a scare. Then she dropped the bomb. I had a miscarriage. No medical records. No ER visit. No hospital bracelet. She said it happened fast. That she didn't want to tell me until she could process it. That she didn't want to make me panic. I asked where it happened. She said work. I asked if anyone was there with her. She said no. Her story was so thin it practically evaporated. She went to bed early, curled up like a child. I stared at her from the hallway, wondering what else she was capable of faking. The truth? I didn't believe a word. But I needed more than belief. I needed confirmation. So I reached out to the last person I ever thought I'd message again. Ben. I made a burner account. Messaged him from a number he wouldn't recognize. I know about Kayla. You've got one chance to come clean. You want me to go quiet? You better start talking. 2 hours passed. Then I got a ping. Ben. Who is this? Look, I'm sorry. It was a mistake. She told me you guys were separated. I wouldn't have if I'd known. I kept pressing. He broke. He admitted everything. Said it happened at a lake house party last summer. That it continued a couple times when she reached out. That he thought she was lying to me. Not that she was lying to him too. Then he dropped this. She told me she wasn't sure who the father was. But she said she was going to tell you it was yours to keep the peace. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely type. That was all I needed. Kayla had lied to me. Ben had believed a lie. And I was done pretending I didn't know. After that message from Ben, I sat in my car for 2 straight hours. Parked outside a gas station. Engine off. There's a specific kind of silence when your world burns down, but nobody else can hear the fire. That's where I was. I knew I couldn't confront her yet. Not directly. Not without a trap. She was good at gaslighting. Smooth. She'd twist it, cry, claim confusion or trauma or stress. But if I caught her on record, game over. So I planned a dinner. Nothing fancy. Just us. Home cooked. Spaghetti with garlic bread. A glass of wine. Her favorite show on in the background. I kept the tone light. Relaxed. Comfortable. And then, right as she was getting seconds, I dropped it. So, I was thinking, maybe it's time we started trying. She froze with her hand halfway to the plate. She blinked twice. Smiled too quickly. Trying? You mean for a baby? Yeah, I said. I mean, we're in a good place, right? Her voice caught. She set down the serving spoon like it weighed 10 pounds. I don't know if now's the right time. Why not? Work's been stressful. And with the way the world is, she trailed off. I'm just not ready. I gave her a long, neutral look. But if it happened by accident? That really hit. Her entire face changed. Defensive. Guarded. She laughed, too high-pitched. Well, then we'd deal with it, obviously. Like last week. Silence. I took a sip of wine. Didn't blink. She stared at me, eyes wide. What do you mean? You said you had a miscarriage. You told me not to worry. She looked like she was doing mental math in real time. Yeah? I didn't want to scare you. It was early. And who else knew about it? Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She was stalling. So I smiled and said, it's fine. I just wanted to talk about it openly now. No secrets, right? And she said, right. No secrets. And that was the biggest lie she'd told yet. That same night, I called my lawyer. Told her everything. Forwarded the files. Set the date. I also contacted HR at Kayla's hospital. Not to snitch, yet. Just to learn the process. They had firm ethical codes around staff conduct, especially if it could affect their reputation or violate confidentiality. Kayla worked with kids, families, vulnerable people, an affair with a family member, especially one who'd visited the pediatric floor with me before. Yeah, that wouldn't look good. My lawyer told me to stay cool, gather more if I could, then go full scorched earth. So that's what I planned. I waited 2 weeks. In those 2 weeks, I told her I had a work retreat coming up, that I'd be out of town overnight. I wasn't. I parked down the block, waited for her to leave, and went through the house, methodically. Phone backups, emails, trash, her car glove compartment, everywhere. I found receipts, notes, one weird folded paper from her purse with a list. Tell Dean you're not feeling well. Say it was stress-related. Ask Ben to stay quiet just in case. She had written herself a checklist to manage her lies. I took a photo and put it back exactly as I found it. Then I left something behind. An invitation. That weekend, I invited both of them, Ben and Kayla, to dinner. Told Kayla it was for my birthday. Told Ben I needed to talk. Both said yes. My parents would host. Ava would be there. And we'd have close family only. I told my parents to stay silent. Let it play out. I printed the messages. Screenshots. Audio transcript. The pregnancy test. Even the note from her purse. Then I wrapped it all in a gift bag. With tissue paper. Like a joke. I was calm. Polite. Dead inside. But with excellent manners. When the night came, everyone arrived on time. Kayla wore her red dress. Ben brought a bottle of wine. We sat, ate, laughed, until dessert. The dessert was Kayla's favorite, chocolate mousse with raspberries. She took a bite and moaned like everything was perfect. Ben was laughing at something Ava said, leaning back in his chair like he owned the room. And that's when I stood up. Before we wrap up the night, I said, I just wanted to give a little something to 2 people who've had a big impact on my year. Kayla smiled like she was about to cry. Ben raised his glass. To Kayla and Ben, I said, handing over the gift bag. She pulled out the tissue paper. Then she stopped. The pregnancy test was on top, still in the plastic bag. Labeled, dated, tagged. Under it, screenshots, folded emails, printed texts. And finally, the handwritten checklist she'd left in her purse. Folded neatly in half with her name in the corner. Ben paled instantly. His chair scraped the tile as he shifted back. Kayla sat frozen, mouth slightly open. Everyone else at the table had gone dead silent. I turned to my parents. This, I said calmly, is what Kayla's been doing for the past 6 months. And Ben? Well, turns out he's been busy too. Kayla looked at me like she didn't recognize me. Ben muttered, Dean. Man, I didn't. Save it, I said. You already did your talking. So did she. Ava cleared her throat. Ben, you told Dean you thought they were broken up. That's what you said, right? Ben opened his mouth, closed it, then gave a weak nod. That's what she told me. And you believed her? I asked. I mean, yeah. Why would she lie? You tell me. Kayla tried to talk, tried to cry, but I wasn't doing that scene with her. I picked up my phone and hit play. The audio clip from the closet filled the room. He still thinks it's his. He'll never know it was you. My dad stood up and left the table. My mom just shook her head and stared at her plate. Ben stood too, muttering something about needing air. Kayla reached out to me. Dean, please. I stepped back. You lied to my face. To everyone's face. You carried a fake pregnancy, gaslit your husband, and dragged my family into it. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? She had no answer. You said you lost the baby. There was no doctor visit. No test from a clinic. Just a stick in the trash and a lie in your throat. She opened her mouth to defend herself again, and I didn't let her. I looked at my mother. Can we finish dessert? I'd like to end this evening with something sweet. Kayla left early. Ben followed. Neither of them said goodbye. My parents asked if I was okay. I told them I was fine. Not because it was true, but because it didn't matter anymore. They were gone. The masks were off. Now came the part where I cleaned house. The next day, I filed for divorce. I had everything I needed, documents, proof of infidelity, manipulation, mental stress. My lawyer said it was one of the cleanest cases she'd seen in a while. Kayla tried to reach out, first with crying voicemails, then angry ones, then silence. Ben sent me an email, said he was sorry again, that he was transferring to another branch out of state. His job was on the line too. His firm had a no-tolerance policy for personal scandals involving clients or close family of clients. Apparently, word had already gotten around. Ava had made sure of it. The fallout was fast and brutal. Kayla's voicemail the next morning was a masterpiece of emotional manipulation. First, confusion. Then, sadness. Then, guilt-tripping. I made a mistake, Dean, but it wasn't like that. You don't just throw away 6 years. You're really going to humiliate me like this? The next voicemail sounded different. If you're trying to ruin me, congratulations. I wasn't. Not yet. But I was also done protecting her reputation at the expense of my sanity. A week after the dinner, I followed up with her hospital's HR anonymously. Told them about the affair, the recordings, the attempted paternity deception. Sent redacted screenshots. No faces. No names. Just the facts. I didn't need her fired. I just wanted documentation on record. Turns out, they had already started an internal review. Why? Because Kayla had asked for 2 sudden medical leaves in the same month without filing the proper paperwork. She'd lied to them, too. Meanwhile, Ben was getting heat from his side. His boss called my uncle, Ben's dad, to ask what the hell was going on. Apparently, one of their major clients had caught wind of a family scandal involving moral conduct. That client, my dad's friend from the country club. Ben tried to keep his job, but the optics weren't good. He was asked to voluntarily step down before review. He sent me a final email. I know you'll never forgive me, but for what it's worth, I didn't know she was lying. I thought she was leaving you. I didn't know I was just the backup plan. I didn't reply. What could I even say? He was either too stupid to see it or too selfish to care, and neither deserved forgiveness. Kayla tried harder. She showed up at my apartment. Knocked. Waited. Texted. We need to talk. I didn't open the door. I just texted back one line. All future communication goes through my attorney. She didn't knock again. 2 days later, I got a long email. Basically a written performance of how I blindsided her and made her look like a monster. You don't understand what it's like being scared of losing everything. I panicked. I just wanted to be loved. She signed it with love, Kayla. I forwarded it to my lawyer. She just replied with, thanks. That helps us even more. You know what no one tells you? After the storm dies down, it's quiet. Not peaceful, just quiet. Like the silence after a house fire. Everything still smells like smoke, but the flames are gone. I had my place, my job, my sanity, but the world felt hollow. I'd spent 6 years building something that turned out to be a sandcastle. But at least now I knew. No more pretending. No more wondering. Just facts. And consequences. The divorce finalized 3 weeks after I submitted the last set of documentation. Kayla didn't contest anything. Not the house. Not the assets. Not the emotional distress clause my lawyer had inserted, citing deliberate deceit, calculated manipulation, and mental harm. She signed. Quietly. I was sitting in my lawyer's office when I got the confirmation email. Just a simple subject line. Your divorce is now finalized. I didn't feel relief. I didn't feel anger. What I felt was strange, like I'd just stepped off a plane that had been crashing for months, and now I was standing alone on a tarmac somewhere unfamiliar. That night, I packed up the last of her things. The boxes went into a storage unit under her name. I mailed her the key. Inside, I included one final note. No need to lie anymore. It's over. Ben moved out of state not long after. I didn't ask where. Don't care. He tried to friend me on Facebook a few weeks later. I left it on request pending. His mom, my aunt, sent me a long, defensive message. Something about young people making mistakes and not throwing away family. I didn't reply. Kayla, to her credit, never showed up again. She vanished from social media. Deleted everything. Whether it was shame or strategy, I'll never know. The only time I heard her name after that was when Ava casually mentioned Kayla had tried to reach out to one of her friends. That friend blocked her on the spot. People say revenge is sweet. But this didn't feel sweet. It felt necessary. There was no grand final showdown. No screaming match. No revenge monologue. Just facts. Receipts. Silence. I think that's what scared her most. How calm it was. How surgical. She expected rage. Pleading. Maybe even forgiveness. Instead, she got a birthday dinner with her betrayal unwrapped like a gift in front of everyone. And I walked away before dessert was even finished. 6 months later, I'm not bitter. I'm healing. I wake up in a clean apartment. I make coffee without checking someone else's texts over their shoulder. I sleep better than I have in years. There's a woman I've started talking to. Nothing serious. She's kind, funny, smart, and quiet in the best way. She doesn't flinch when I pause mid-sentence. She doesn't fill silence with lies. I haven't told her everything. I probably won't, not yet. But the other day, I caught myself smiling when she laughed at something I said. And I realized I haven't smiled like that in a long time. Sometimes, when it's late and the house is still, I think back to that night. The light under the closet door. The whisper I wasn't meant to hear. He'll never know it was you. But I did know. And now, so does everyone else. And somehow that's enough. And that's the story. If you're still here, that means you're one of us. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button. I drop new chaos every single day. And trust me, tomorrow's story, it's even worse than this one.